Good evening, everyone. Just want to thank you all for fighting the parking lot to come up here and join us. My name is Sandy Pope. I'm on the faculty in the Seidel School of Education and the director of the Institute for Public Affairs and Civic Engagement, which is one of the wings here on campus that is interested in both the political process, but also making sure that we're engaging thoughtfully as a community, not just as a campus. So it's always very nice to have events like this where we're able to bring members of our community into our campus space. This evening is the, second of 4 such forums that we have. So on October 20th in Holloway Hall, which is just on the other side of the square, we'll have another forum with many of the same faces, county council member, or folks running for county council, more of a general interest sort of forum where tonight is really focused on the environment. And then on October 25th in this same room, we'll be hosting a forum with candidates running for the Wycomico County Board of Education. So if you have interest in those, please consider joining us for those events as well, both coming in advance of the opening of early voting in the state of Maryland, October 27th, which will run until November 3rd. And then my hunch is that everyone in the room knows that Election Day is on November 8th. We're all on board with that one. So some good dates to keep track of. Right now I have the pleasure of introducing Alan Gerard, the Eastern Shore Director of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, who has helped to organize this event. So, Alan.
Thanks, Sandy. Pleased to co-sponsor this event with all these great organizations. I just wanted to make a couple remarks here before introducing our moderator. All the candidates here, both running for county executive and for the Wycomico County Council, have been invited to participate in this forum this evening. And the event is for educational purposes only. None of the sponsoring organizations here support or endorse or sponsor any particular candidate for office, but we do educate. And that's what this evening is about, educating the voters about how candidates stand on the issues that affect you in your daily lives, in this case tonight, the environment. So we have a couple handouts on your chair. I didn't have enough printouts for every single chair in the room, so just grab an empty handout from an empty chair if you don't have one on your chair already. One is 5 actions your next local elected officials take for clean water. This is a Chesapeake Bay Foundation publication. We print these out every election season and distribute them around the state. These are the top priorities we believe are important for any local elected official that's concerned with their community and the health of their environment, in particular, their water quality. So encourage you to take a look at that. And then we also have on your chairs or the chair next to you an agenda. Let's see, can we flick to the slide? You have that, Sandy? Thank you. I'm going to have Handa walk over this in just a minute, but just know that you've got a copy to follow along so that you can just stay up to date in what the proceedings for the evening are going to be. So I'll have Hannah walk through that with you in a minute, but I did want to introduce Hannah Cicchini. She is the weekend news anchor for ABC 47, the local news station here. I found on her bio this statement. I thought this was interesting. Hannah enjoys her work serving as a platform for people who feel their voices need to be heard. And the candidates running for office here are the representatives of your voices in this community, and I just couldn't think of a more appropriate opportunity for Hannah to come and moderate this evening's program. Thanks, Hannah.
All right, could not have asked for a better introduction there, but as Alan just said, good evening. Thank you to everybody who came here to listen, and thank you to all of our candidates who are here tonight. Again, I am the weekend anchor and the senior reporter at 47 ABC. So we're going to go over the agenda here just so we all kind of have an idea of what we're expecting tonight. So we will allow each candidate to make an introduction 2 minutes long. And then after we've heard from each candidate, we'll move into questions that we have put together, that all obviously have to do with the environment and pressing issues here in Wycomico County. We'll run those questions for about 45 minutes, and then after that, we'll be taking questions from you all, the audience. And as you're walking in, I'm sure you grabbed a note card and you're able to jot down any questions you already had. If you did not already give it over, you can bring it up here to Sandy, and he will, so Sandy will make sure that I get those questions from you all, and we'll get through them. And then after we get through the questions from the community, that's going to be about 40 minutes long, we will do some concluding remarks here from Madeline Adams with the Wycomico Environmental Trust. So to our candidates, as I mentioned, we have 1 minute each for you to respond to your questions. Some of you have done forums before, so you've heard this line, but if I'm cutting you off, it's not because I don't like you, it's because we have to stick to our schedule here. And Sandy actually will be right down here in front with some cards to kind of help you guys gauge where you're at in your timing with your responses. So, all right, let's get into it. We will just go from my left down the row and then go to the second row back here. So each candidate, I would ask that you keep your opening remarks to about 2 minutes at the most, and please make sure you introduce yourself at the beginning. So directly on my right here, we have Mr. Joe Holloway. You have 2 minutes, and you may begin.
Okay, do I stand up? Or?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Good evening. Thanks for everybody being here. My name's Joe Holloway. I've served on the Wycomico County Council since 2006. My wife and I reside in Parsonsburg, Maryland, where we are forest stewards to 40 acres of pine forest. Faye and I currently operate a pre-owned furniture, antiques, collectibles store in beautiful downtown Parsonsburg. Trying to get a little advertising here while we're at it. Anyway, as we reclaim items that could sometimes end up in the landfill, but a lot of times they're able to be reused by folks. Previous to that, I was in the automotive recycling business. My wife and I both come from generational farm families where protecting our environment is ingrained in us. We need to remember that our American farmers feed the world, and they are the first environmentalists. So it's high on my priority list that we protect the farmers in Wycomico County. So thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Joe. My name is John Cannon. I'm running for Wycomico County Council at large. I'd like to thank the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, Salisbury University, Wycomico Environmental Trust, and Channel 47 for sponsoring this here in Salisbury University, if I didn't say that. Again, I'm John Cannon. I am a native of Wycomico County. I received my bachelor's degree from Salisbury University. I own and operate Cannon Enterprises and Cannon Management Rentals. We own and manage properties throughout the lower Eastern Shore region. I've been on the council about 12 of the last 16 years, and I've had the privilege of serving as president of the council 9 of those years, and I've enjoyed it. I enjoy representing the constituents. I think that anyone that knows me knows I'm very straightforward. I try to be very honest and sincere in how I delegate and how I represent my constituents. And I think that's very important. I also, which I think is very key, I also work very, very hard. And I have to tell you that I'm on probably 7 different committees and 3 different associations in Wycomico County. I do that because I like it, but I also think it's very important. I think you have to work hard in order to be an effective and an authentic representative for your constituents in Wycomico County. So that's what I try to bring to the table. Wycomico County is very concerned about the environmental health in the Chesapeake Bay. You know, we worry about, you know, whether or not it's wastewater treatment, whether it's stormwater management or any other issues that are going to affect our environment. So much so that we invest about $200,000 every single year and have done that since about Rick Pollitt was in office back in about probably 2010. And we do that because we want to get our total maximum daily loads of nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediments down by at least 20% by the time we have our goal reached in about, you said 10 seconds, right? Okay. Wow, okay. So anyways, but that's part of what we commit. We also are committing in 2023 another $500,000 for the MS4 programs so that we can address the issues and the concerns that we have in reference to impervious surfaces and stormwater management. So that didn't seem like 2 minutes, but you're the time
I promise
guy.
it was.
Thanks.
You can hand it over to Mr. Merritt.
John, be
All
glad
right.
it- be glad it's 2
Clock
minutes.
was ticking. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeff Merritt, and I'm running for Wycomico County Council District 2. And like the previous two speakers, I want to thank everybody for providing this opportunity for everybody to come and hear all of us and how we stand. I wasn't born here. I'm a come here, but I've been coming here since 1964, so seen a few changes. My wife and I own a business here in Salisbury for the last 12 years. We actually took over our current business right in the middle of the last recession, and my banker thought I was an idiot. But, you know, here we are. I'm a low-key guy, straightforward. If you ask me a question, you're going to get an answer. Might or might not be the one you're looking for, but it's going to be the truth. Like John, I think I work hard. If I have a 12-hour day, that's an easy day. Most of the time it's 14 to 16, and that's 6, sometimes 7 days a week. I serve on multiple committees and boards of directors, all of which are volunteer. I was raised by 2 World War II era parents that taught me the value of being involved in your community and helping out wherever you can. I started a nonprofit organization in 2007 called Operation We Care that we help the military and first responders on multiple levels and projects too numerous to mention. And again, we started that with no plan, no forward vision, and here we are 15 years and 29,000 care packages later. So proud to be involved in that effort. That's a total community effort. Member of the Rotary, serve on the board there. Salisbury Chamber of Commerce, Greater Salisbury Committee. I try and be as involved as I can. And I own 2 suits. One for a wedding, one for a funeral. You guys can decide which one this is.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brad Gillis. I'm running for Wycomico County Council at Large, and look forward to tonight's evening. We have a lot of people to get through, so I'm going to try to do a minute. But really appreciate the opportunity. So again, my name is Brad Gillis. I'm a second-generation commercial real estate builder, developer. We own and operate a company called Gillis Gilkerson, and you know, it's been near and dear to our heart in regards to infill development and recycling and repurposing buildings in and around our local community. Been very excited to you know, continue to promote our downtown and infill development and to reduce runoff and et cetera. I have 2 young boys. They both go to Pinehurst Elementary School. My wife works for a local nonprofit here. I am a former Chamber of Commerce president. I'm a current vice chair at the Greater Salisbury Committee. All of our businesses employ nearly 200 people collectively. Last year we purchased Crown Sports Center, and I kind of see that as Wycomico County's community center, quite honestly. So I feel like serving on council is the next progression for my career and serving my community. I'm thankful to be here and look forward to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Good to see everybody. Thank you again for being here. My name is Josh Hastings. I represent Wycomico County Council District 4. You are currently in District 4, in case you wonder where that's at. A bit about me. Today is my 40th birthday, so thank you for celebrating with me here. So I grew up in Mardella Springs. My family had the very first certified organic farm in Maryland. I was also grew up with a poultry farm, so I spent most of my years working in the chicken house. Got a lot of scarves to prove all that. I've spent most of my career in, actually spent the last 12 years been working in land use policy, so I'm currently the program and policy director for Forever Maryland. I've worked for the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy and Lower Shore Land Trust. I'm also on the boards of the Harry R. Hughes Center for Agroecology, the incoming chair of the Delmarva Land and Poultry Litter Collaborative put together to try to find common ground solutions. I'll be brief and just basically say that I've continued to, on my 4 years on the council here, or soon to be 4 years, we've worked to continue to improve our parks. Pirates Wharf Park, I was proud to be a deciding vote member on that, as well as a lot of other space. So I really care about cleaning, making sure our water's clean, that our farmers are continuing to do what they do, and that we're continuing to make sure that we're looking out for the whole of the environment. That means our species, our land use, and that we're continuing to still grow in the same way. So thank you all for being here. I look forward to the debate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mira Boda. I'm the current Vice President for the Salisbury City Council in my second term. And I also have a full-time job at Walmart as an asset protection operations coach. And I'm also a full-time college student. Will be graduating next June with my bachelor's in business management and leadership. Very busy. Plus, I'm running for county executive. So, like Jeff, my days are usually 14, 16-hour days. I love what I do on the city council. I love the city of Salisbury. I love Wycomico County. I'm from Tillman Island, and I migrated down to Salisbury when we chose a final place to live, in my opinion. And so really excited to talk tonight about some of the things that I think we all agree on. We all love the quality of life on the Eastern Shore. We all enjoy the waterways. We enjoy eating crabs. We enjoy eating chicken, scrapple. So this is, you know, our goal is to find ways to work together, find solutions to the issues that are approaching our community. Some of them are forced, some of them we can plan. And I think our vision can't always be for the issue we have today. We have to look 5, 10, 15, 25, 30 years down the road from the view of 30,000 feet. Where do we want to be? How do we get there? And how do we get there together? So look forward to talking about that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Talana D. Watson, and I am running for Wycomico County Council District 2, and I'm privileged to be on stage with my opponent, Mr. Jeff Merritt. You know, I had to, when I arrived here, I graduated from SU in the 1980s, and I must say, it's been a minute since I've walked around the campus, so I had to find my way around the campus. But I realized that just like there have been many changes on the campus, there have been many changes around all of us. And I've been here all of my life, gone to school here, graduated here, raised a family. My husband and I have a funeral home and a cemetery. And so we are accustomed to the long hours of work that some of my colleagues have spoken about. And when looking all around me and seeing all of the changes that are taking place, seeing the challenges that we are faced with, and most of all, being faced with environmental challenges. And yes, I know in the 60s and the 70s when I was growing up, we didn't really think too much about what we were doing or how we were affecting the planet that we lived on. And so in the last few decades, we've become more aware and conscious. And so my greatest pledge as an elected official is that I would promise to reduce the risk or eliminate the risk to any harm that would cause us as people and our assets. And I think that pretty much sums it all, that people are first in everything we do. And when we always put our people first, then we will have a better Wycomico.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the people who's putting this event on. My name's Ernest Davis. I'm a lifelong resident of Wycomico County. Of course, been here all my life. I attended SU, Warwick Tech. I was with Maryland State Police for 20 years. And at that, during that time, I opened and operated 2 businesses. I started from the ground up, then operating them for 30 years. 2014, I was elected my first term to the county council. I've been on there 8 years. I'm presently the vice president. And several issues that has come up. Of course, with the farming issue, we always want the right for the farmers to farm, and then you got the developers who wants to develop. So we're in the middle of the balancing act, so that's one of the hardest things we have to do is make sure each one of them is getting their share fair. And of course, with the water and sewer issue that we have, that'd be one great issue once we get it solved with the well and septics, with the runoff that is going into the Chesapeake Bay. So once that plan is being implemented, that'd be one way of solving that problem. And the other issue is the environment, with the parks and recs, with Pirates Wharf. That'd be a great addition that'd be added to Wycomico County. With that park, you have nature trails and so forth there. So I'm gonna cut myself short and wait for the questions to come along.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Just thank you to all the three organizations that made tonight possible. Really appreciate this opportunity. I myself am a big environmental advocate, so I love having these issues at the forefront of the community. So for those who don't know who I am, my name is Megan Outen. I am one of the candidates for Wycomico County Council at Large. I have been blessed to call Wycomico County my home for many years, as my family has for several decades. Civic responsibility has been at the forefront of my family for many years. You know, my great-grandfather served on the Fruitland City Council for 20 years. My grandfather was a lieutenant with the Maryland Natural Resource Police Department for 15 years, and my father currently serves on the Fruitland Chamber of Commerce. So needless to say, it was no surprise to my family when I told them at 29 years old that I was deciding to run for county council at large. So a bit about me. So I graduated from Salisbury University right here. 2016 feels like quite a long time ago, actually, with the pandemic in mind. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in communication arts and with a minor in political science. From there, I was lucky enough to actually enter the renewable energy industry. So I was at the forefront of bringing a new industry here to Maryland. I worked on one of the first offshore wind projects that we had, the Skipjack Wind Project. And that project kind of pole vaulted me to why I'm standing here today. It put me in front of a lot of the stakeholders that we are currently working with as candidates in the community. I worked alongside of our state delegates and legislators to really put forth some great environmental policies, worked with a lot of our environmental organizations to find biodiversity initiatives. And you know, after being with the company for 5 years, I decided to kind of pivot and take on this you know, environmental justice from the government standpoint. And really looking forward to, man, this 2 minutes flies by. Really looking forward to kind of bringing that dialogue down to the county council, and I'm looking forward to having some further discussions with you all.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kyle Cole. I'm candidate for Wycomico County District 1. So, born and raised here, Salisbury, back when it was a general hospital. Used to live down in Nanticoke, so grew up on the Chesapeake Bay, but also grew up on a farm in Tyaskin, which my grandparents owned. Ever since I was a little kid, my whole family has been public service. My grandfather was a civil engineer, environmental engineer. He designed most of the parks here in Wycomico County and did all the surveying for them, including Purdue Stadium, Pemberton, and all that. So one thing that he did put in me was always put your best foot forward. Age 16, I joined Salisbury Fire Department as a cadet, and now I work full-time Dorchester County as a firefighter EMT, which luckily I took off tomorrow, but tomorrow's supposed to be my 24-hour shift. I don't think I'd be able to do it and be here tonight. But environment's very big for me. I know we need to protect it. There's a lot of things I see wrong. Living in town of Hebron, we're not right on the water anymore. But growing up down in Nanticoke, growing up going out on the Nanticoke River, working Dorchester County, I see there's tons of things that we need to do as a county, which if I'm elected, I will bring forward and make sure it gets done. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening. Thank you to everyone for making this night happen. My name is Julie Giordano, and I am running to be your next Wycomico County Executive. I, too, am a Salisbury University graduate. I graduated in 2002, so 2016 seems very close. But I have a bachelor's degree in communications and public relations. I just started my 18th year teaching with Wycomico County Public Schools. I've worked as a human resources manager, a special events coordinator. My husband and I were married in 2005, we met in 2005, goodness, and we were married in 2007. I have 2 stepchildren. Jordan, she is 28. She lives on the other side of the bridge. And we have Evan, he is 20, and he's working at Whitehead Realty. And we have Jack, he is 12, and he is a 7th grader at Mardella. I'm very excited to run for Wicomico County Executive, and when it comes to environmental issues, bottom line is they're nonpartisan. Everybody wants clean air, everybody wants clean water, everybody wants our Chesapeake Bay to thrive. And so I'm hoping that after tonight and we answer questions, you all will have a better idea as to who do you think will be the best candidates. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is James Nguyen. First thing I would like to do is just say thanks to everybody that put this event on tonight. So I grew up in, well, I actually didn't grow up in Wycomico County. I moved over here from across the bridge, believe it or not. So I've lived in this county for 18 years. I went to Parkside High School, and my father and I own a small business called Acme Ceramic Tile Company. It's thriving. We've been in business since 1953. And then I decided to run for county council. Just, I would say, I started running this race around Christmas time. Before that, I just, I realized that I needed to do something, or people my age needed to step up and get involved, or we're not going to have a future left in this world. So I figured, hey, let me give this a shot. Let me try and run. Here I am. I'm running it. And just let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I love to hunt. I love to fish. I spend a lot of time outside on the water fishing. So the environment is, this is, like Julie said, this is an issue that everyone's concerned with. Everybody wants clean water. Everybody wants clean air. And I'm not going to stand up here and pretend that I know all the answers. I really don't. But I'm going to listen. And that's what I can give to you. Even if I don't know the answer tonight, I have open ears and I have an open mind, and I will take back what I learned tonight and take it with me to the county council if I do win. Anyway, my name's James Nguyen, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you don't mind. I'm a senior citizen. I think I might be the oldest one here. And if you know anything about arthritis, you know how I feel. My name is Shani Shields, and I'm running for County Council District 1. I was born here. I lived away from home a total of 8 years. My first husband was in the military, and I lived in Somerset County for 4 years because he was attending school at University of Maryland Eastern Shore. This is going to be a learning experience to me. I've been out of the loop since 2015, but I do know the environment is a very important issue for everyone. And one of the problems I see is that we don't communicate with each other. I think it's unfair. Sometimes things that are legal may not be fair. And I think we need to bring all the stakeholders to the table before we set policies, legislation, bring things to the community that may affect the quality of life for people in the neighborhood. I think I'm a person that open door policy. You call me anytime at night, phone ring 1 o'clock, I answer it. You never know what it is. But I'm just saying that I'm willing to be transparent. I'm willing to let people know what's going on because I know they discuss things in work sessions because I did serve 10.5 years on the city council. And what I have done over the years, I've built partnerships that will enable me and other council members to get things done. You cannot do it by yourself. Everyone has to work together. I think this environmental issue did not happen overnight. It was hundreds of years of pollution and all these things. So we need to work together, the farmers, the committee, the chicken. I did go to a chicken house, by the way. I wanted to see where they're raising chickens now. And I was amazed on the regulations that they have to follow. It can be improved maybe, I don't know. I don't have the answers. But I'm willing to communicate. And I think that goes for everyone here. If they get in office, they need to communicate. Personal agendas need to be outside, but what is best for the community and as a whole.
Thank you. All right, so let's get into our questions now. We are going to start with Mr. Cannon. The first question, and a quick reminder, I know those 2 minutes went by really fast. That 1 minute is going to go by even faster. Just a fair warning there. So again, you have 1 minute to answer each question. So starting with Mr. Cannon, what do you see as the biggest environmental challenge facing Wycomico County, and how would you propose addressing them? You may begin.
Thank you. That's a big red stop sign you put out there. The biggest, let me stand up, thank you. I think what we're facing right now, and most of you should know, is probably the Water and Sewer Master Plan, which has been put together to address failing septics and wells throughout Wycomico County. We're working very hard to make that happen. We're working with the Maryland Department of the Environment, Maryland Department of Planning. I know the Chesapeake Bay Foundation is also working with us to try to make that happen. We know there are failing septic systems. There are about 18,000 homes we need to look at. 10,000 of those homes are within the municipal areas where we could possibly get service to there. But then there's other systems more out in the rural areas where we're going to have some type of a system, either a standalone facility to address that concern. So we'll have to have a water authority in Wycomico County. And we're going to have to also talk to the homeowners and try to convince the homeowners that even though their septic or their well isn't bad right now, it could go bad in the future, and you will need our help. So that I think is the first priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cannon.
Where am I going?
You're going to your right. So next, Mr. Merritt, you have 1 minute to respond. Again, the question was, what do you see as the biggest environmental challenges facing Wycomico County, and how would you propose addressing them? You may begin.
So I agree with Mr. Cannon. The Water Sewer Master Plan, we're definitely behind the 8 ball on that. That's been talked about for 5 decades. And not only is it going to affect our environment if we don't do anything about it, it's going to start affecting the property values for homes that can't be sold because they have a failed septic system. So I agree with the Water Sewer Master Plan. There's treatment facilities in the rural areas that are at capacity. We need to figure out how to renovate them and expand their capacity so they can take care of the surrounding areas. And unfortunately, it's not going to be a quick fix. It's going to be years and a lot of money.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt. Mr. Gillis, 1 minute, you may begin.
I don't know the last time I was called Mr. Gillis.
Got to be formal, it's a forum.
Thank you. Yes, it's pretty obvious sewer is by far one of our biggest challenges, but prior to sewer, it's going to be forming the team and having leadership in place to create that vision, that alignment within our community, both on the legislative side, on the executive side. So I'm glad to hear that the environment and also solving these environmental problems, specifically sewer, is a nonpartisan issue. So I think that it's the reason that we have not tackled these bigger issues is because of the fact that they are eating like an elephant. We got to eat them one bite at a time. And in order to do that, Wycomico County is at a severe deficit when it comes to the people that are working in the county. And we have to hire the people that are needed to produce these products. In order to do that, we got to have a good leadership in place and an aligned vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hastings, 1 minute.
Yeah, so they're completely right. Water and sewer is our biggest issue. I was happy to be a part of the council that we made that a priority to actually get a new water and sewer master plan put together. We've got issues, down in Nanticoke, Bivalve, other areas, as you all may know. There's a lot of homes that are on septic system. They're also on well. Because due to the impacts of climate change, the water is rising, the land is sinking, those wells are turning salty. So if you can't drink your water and you can't flush your toilet because the septic system no longer works, you've got a very expensive home it's no longer going to be worth what it should be. I'll add on to that, we also need to watch out for, climate change has other impacts, including species adaptation. We need to continue to make sure that we have, that we adapt our area so that we can still continue to have fewer invasive species and more of the species that we want, which I'll talk about later, 10 seconds ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody is in agreement that the pink elephant in the room sitting back in the corner is water and sewer. And I agree with what everybody's saying here. One of the issues that's going to come with that we have to plan for as well is ensuring that we hire the right people and that we pay them what the market's going to call for. because your competition for your employees in water and sewer is not necessarily going to be from Dorchester County or Worcester. It's going to be from across the bay or private companies that will pay them twice as much. So we have to understand that that has to be a piece of the conversation. While we're doing water and sewer, we also need to implement broadband with it and allow for utilities to be run underground as well. That'll help with the deficit of broadband and internet in the rural areas.
Thank you. Ms. Watson, 1 minute.
I'm in agreement with everyone else that water and sewer is uppermost in Wycomico County, but I also think there's another piece to it, you know, the piece of infrastructure, in that we as a county really have to be smart in how we're planning our growth. That even though we may have an imminent issue right now, we need to also consider the future and how we can lay that groundwork for future growth.
Thank you. All right, we'll go Mr. Davis next. Here we go. I got one for you right here.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but of course it's water and sewer. One of the things that we don't have is we don't have a sanitation department. So we're going to first have to start off by initiating a sanitation department, which also calls for us to get a director. So we would look like we would have to start from the beginning, because it seemed like we put the cart before the horse. So we have to start from getting the director who can guide us through this water sewer plan. And along with that, we would have to bring all the municipalities in and see what they have already operating and what they're willing to give or what they need to sustain their sewer, or if they want to go along with the Wycomico County plan and enlarge it with that enlargement. Other than that, it's going to cost a lot of money, so we would, of course, have to go and get a grant writer to get the money instead of putting the burden all on the taxpayers. So we would have to go out and seek the money to fund this, because it's going to cost billions and billions of dollars.
Thank you. Ms. Outen, 1 minute.
I'm going to repeat myself again. Water and sewer, obviously, but I want to touch on something important that Ms. Watson said, which is proactive planning. So a lot of these issues that we are seeing at the county currently were identified, to be honest, long before I was even born, back in the 70s. I think that's when my mom was born, guys. And these are issues that the county council has been long aware of. We need to have leadership at the county that's proactive, that has a long-term vision. We know the anticipated growth that we are going to see, not here just in Salisbury, but all of Wycomico, all on the Eastern Shore. We need to have a really in-depth stakeholder dialogue with community leaders, municipality, county, community residents to identify the infrastructure needs that we're going to need so we don't have an issue like this again in the future for our residents.
Thank you. Mr. Cole, 1 minute.
So I'm not going to beat a dead horse, because everybody definitely talks about water and sewer, which that is a major problem. But something I've noticed, especially up in District 1 on the back roads, is the pollution, the just dumping off trash on the side of the roads, stop signs getting trashed. We really need to start a countywide system for get better recycling going on here in this county. Because right now, I can't even tell you where all the recycling centers are. But I would definitely work on getting the recycling done, maybe possibly get a countywide trash system. So that way we're not having all the trash just dumped on the side of the roads. Because when I was growing up, this county used to be beautiful, free of trash on the roads. You can go walking down the street without getting cut by a piece of glass. So I would definitely be working on cleaning up our community again.
Thank you. Ms. Giordano, 1 minute.
Of course, I agree with everyone up here. The water and sewer obviously is a top priority. From the executive level, we have been working diligently laying the foundation. So one thing that we've talked about is the Greater Salisbury has a group of about 25 people that have come together to try to start implementing this water and sewer plan. They've also met with the town municipal leaders, and the good news is that most of them, if not all of them, are ready to expand and do the things necessary so we can expand out, so we can do it from the municipal level. Thank you. I think I'll just stop right there. So yeah, we've got our municipal leaders, and yeah, so we'll be good. Thank you. You threw me off with the sign, Sandy.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Nguyen, 1 minute.
Ditto. No. Okay, well, like Talana, I completely agree. We do, and Megan, we do need to think about how we grow. We obviously need this sewer and water plan, right? But, you know, we're going to look like little Baltimore here in a minute if we go ahead and do the entire county in you know, in a blink of an eye, because, you know, things are going to get developed quick. I love this Eastern Shore way of life, and I love seeing the fields, and I love seeing the farms and the waterways. And I'm telling you right now, if we, you know, we go ahead and put a water and sewer plan instantly, you know, we're going to be regretting that, unfortunately. But one thing we do need to do is work with our town municipalities and let them, help them expand their water and sewer, right? We've got Sharptown. They need help over there. Daggone it, I'm out of time. Anyway, there's a lot to talk about on this topic. But anyway, here you go.
All right, thank you. Ms. Shields.
I have to agree because I moved in the county when I got off the council in 2016 or 2015, but I moved back home, and I hate septic tanks. However, I'm looking at everyone here. When you put a water and sewer treatment plant, it's going to cost you. You're going to have to pay for it because you're going to get a water bill and you're going to get a sewage bill. And that is one of the things, that's why I say it's very important to get the people who need it or the people involved to know what it's going to cost you. I've been part of 2 wastewater treatment plants in the city of Salisbury. One failed, $66 million. The next one was $77 million. It's a costly venture. But if you want to tap into the city of Salisbury's water now, it's approximately $12,000. Now, who has $12,000 disposable income? So I just want to let you know that. It's a cost factor for you. So we have to incorporate all that. What is it going to cost the general public to tap into a septic system?
Thank you. All right.
I don't know how you get the word ditto to last 60 seconds.
Right.
But you have to agree with what everybody said. We all know the, like Mr. Boda said, the elephant in the room. We're going to have challenges devising the system, putting the system together. It's going to cost a lot of money. The other challenge nobody's mentioned is a lot of people live in the rural areas of Wycomico County, even close to Salisbury and the other municipalities, that don't want to be in a municipality. So that's going to be where we really have to try to figure out to make everybody happy. And you know, there's people that live on large sections of land, you know, 10 acres, 20 acres, 5 acres, that aren't going to need these services as quickly as somebody like off of Evolution City Road that's on a 1/4 acre of land. So that's going to be one of our largest challenges. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to our second question. So the question here is, unplanned sprawl is always a threat in Maryland's few remaining rural areas. Will you, and if so, how, work to preserve Wycomico County's rural character and agricultural legacy from becoming a new Long Island of suburbs? You're starting.
Okay. Well, I think the phrase of the day is smart growth. I think everybody's already talked about that. We need to be conscious of how many homes we build, how that's going to affect our roads, the number of people that work in our police departments, the number of people that are in our fire departments, and so on. It's a domino effect. We can't just put 100 homes up on a piece of property and think that things are not going to change, because they will. So I'll yield my time to my next person.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Gillis.
You said Long Island?
It's a metaphor.
We're not on an island. No. Infill development, repurposing of buildings, smart growth, making sure that we maximize the density that we have within our current infrastructure. So the city of Salisbury is a perfect example. Here is Home is the legislation that's currently applied for is 8,300 homes, building permits that are in process. All of those are inside the corporate limits of the city of Salisbury. So planned, smart growth. What we don't want to do, I would use an analogy, is become eastern Sussex County, where we have no roads infrastructure, but we have oodles and oodles of sewer infrastructure. So the good thing is right now is we have great roads such as Route 13 and Route 50 that can handle the appropriate infrastructure and the appropriate growth. But how to do it? It's through smart growth and utilizing existing infrastructure smartly and preventing as much runoff as humanly possible.
Thank you. Mr. Hastings.
Yeah, Brad was completely right about that. I work in conservation. I've worked on comprehensive plans up and down the Eastern Shore, the 9 counties. You know, the real way that you go about making sure, as a couple of folks have said, that we don't have the issues that we have today is through proper planning. And you know, most folks may not know, but throughout the county, the A1 district, the Agricultural 1 district, is where a lot of folks live. That's really not where a lot of folks should live. We need to be growing as inside the priority funding area. There are other things that we can do to continue to build dense, which we have done, and I think as a council, I think we will continue to do. But staying within the priority funding areas is really where you have to be. We need to make sure that when we go through a comprehensive plan again, that we protect the areas that are most important, that we make sure that we don't grow there. And other things like, you know, we still to this county to this day has not yet recertified its MALF, the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation. Farmers who want to preserve their land cannot do that in Wycomico County, and that's because we haven't made that.
You can finish your thought.
That we haven't fixed that. And we as a county, the folks sitting up here, can actually fix that so farmers can preserve their land going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Boda.
Yeah, and I, you know, one of the things with growth, and I feel like I'm turning my back on you, I'm sorry, is, you know, in smart growth, when you're growing inside the areas that for designation. And the other thing with density, the issue is to grow up, not necessarily grow out. And that was part of the problem with the suburbanation of America, where they did all this growing out and they didn't understand the cost of 40 years down the road, 30 years down the road, when you got to go fix those sewer lines and water lines and streets, and it's very expensive. So growing where you want to grow is critical. Protecting the agricultural areas of our county is critical. And then when you're working with the smaller municipalities, what is their plan? Do they want to grow? Some of them may not want to. And that's something that working with them to ensure, to protect how they want their town to look. So that's something we have to be aware of as well.
Thank you. Ms. Watson?
In my reading, I discovered that Maryland is one of those states considered to have smart growth legislation. And I also discovered that Wycomico County is one of the counties in which studies were done to show us the best way to grow our county. So we need to look at those studies to see the best mix as far as our land uses, and we need to make sure we create housing and transportation choices, as well as preserving our farmland and our free space. And that's how we ultimately efficiently maximize our economy. That's how we will sustain our environment, and that's how we will create social equity.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
I think Josh touched on it briefly. We have what was called a comprehensive plan. I think a couple of years we just finished it, and what that does, it's a mapping system that tells you where growth can and cannot occur. And I think what we've done and what our planning and zoning, along with working with the state, I think they've done a pretty good job. And if we follow that plan, I think we will be all right as far as growth, so we won't be growing and bulging right out the seams. It's a steady growth, and it's not a growth that, so we won't look like Long Island.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Outen.
I'll use a little bit of a different word rather than smart growth for you guys. So, and I want to emphasize that there is an importance in encouraging a smart growth dialogue within our community. But really, preservation to me comes at the forefront of this conversation, mainly when it comes to our agricultural community. So, In Wycomico County, I did some reading myself, and I think this was published with the county, their land preservation study that was published in 2022. Since the 70s, Wycomico County has lost 46% of its farmland, and I think that's equivalent of like 20,000 acres in that time. So along with encouraging smart growth implementation, I would really like to see us encouraging some open space policies, working alongside of our farmers to make sure we protect those lands a little bit more, and that way, you know, James gets to see those beautiful fields that we come to love of Wycomico so much, and we are a little bit more mindful about our growth moving forward.
Thank you. Ms. Giordano, Mr. Cole, excuse me.
So I grew up here. I love the farm areas that we have. I'm okay with developing the municipalities we have here. I love what Brad's company does, taking old buildings, repurposing them, bringing them 21st century. I love that. What I don't love is destroying farms, wooded areas, natural habitats to build overpopulated neighborhoods and not basically building stuff that will actually help. Why not take that wooded area and turn it into like a nature park? Have it so that everybody can enjoy it instead of destroying our area and our way of life. I've driven in Baltimore City with ambulances. I don't want to drive down here with ambulances. You can't pay me enough for that.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Giordano.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with the gentleman up here and along with Megan as well. Smart growth is definitely super important. One thing that does concern the municipalities, though, is can they hold the infrastructure? And so it is a delicate balance. We need housing. We do have a housing shortage. But then again, it's how do we do this delicate balance? So I think that is where the smart growth comes in. And I'm not going to be too redundant.
Thank you. Mr. Nguyen?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. It's kind of a long question. So unplanned sprawl is always a threat in Maryland's few remaining rural areas. Will you, and if so, work to preserve Wycomico County's rural character and agricultural legacy from becoming a new Long Island of suburbs?
Yeah, so everyone here kind of knows that I love the Eastern Shore way of life. I think I made that clear. But, you know, like I said, if we implement a county-wide water and sewer, which I have no problem with, if that's what the people want, you know, we're going to have urban sprawl, Long Island, because of it. So my idea would be to work with the county, work with the towns, and work with the people and see where they want this water, see where they want this sewer, because a lot of people like living off-grid. You know, not everybody wants to be tied in with the municipality, and a lot of people don't want to be double taxed. So this is something that we have to think about as well. So we need to find these people, or they need to find us. We need to advertise that this is something that we're going to do, and work with these people so we can get them their sewer and water.
Thank you, Ms. Shields.
I think one of the things Ernie was saying, the comprehensive plan. I think when you're going to make a change or decide smart growth, whatever, you need to have a plan, but have the people that elect us be part of that comprehensive plan. Share it with you, get the input of the comprehensive plan. Because I always tell people, while we're sleeping, people are planning on what they're going to do with us. You know, and that's true to me. I feel that way sometimes. You know, all of a sudden you see something new. When did that happen? Have a plan and make people part of the plan, have ownership of the plan. Like you say, traffic, infrastructure, more police, more ambulances, fire department. That's a cost to everybody. That might increase your taxes. You need to have a plan. There is a development now in District 1 in Sassafras. That was a plan that came about in 2005, but it's just being implemented now. And it was already they annexed to the city. They have city water, municipal water and sewer. But the houses, I know they put 150 houses in there. I'm going to count them one day, see how many they put in there. And I'm just saying, but you had that was already planned. And there's many people that are, talk to you later.
Mr. Holloway.
We can't have it both ways. It's going to be easy closer to Salisbury and closer to municipalities, but you can't run a water and sewer line 10 miles, 5 miles down a road and expect it to be viable. For one thing, they won't work without flow, especially on the sewer. The water's a different story, but you're not going to be able to do it. So between here and there, there's going to be water and sewer, and there's going to be pressure to develop those areas. So I think that's where the environmental community has to make a choice, whether they're going to accept the water and sewer plan as we do it and what it's going to cost. Like Brad said, look at eastern Sussex County. That's what we're going to end up with water and sewer. I'm fully in favor of water and sewer. I know we need it because we have such a problem with the areas around Salisbury and in other areas of the county. But it's going to come with a cost. Thank you. Other than money.
Thank you. Mr. Cannon?
Thank you. It wasn't that long ago where, as far as development in the rural district, it was about a 1 in 3. You could put 1 unit per 3 acres, and that allowed for quite a bit of development in the rural area. Since that time, though, things have changed, I think, to benefit Wycomico County. I believe it may be around 1 in 7 now. Alan, I think you would know. But it has become much more restrictive to actually go out and build a development in the rural areas of Wycomico County. So I think that's a good thing for the farmers and for the farming community. The other thing to keep in mind is that the health department, there are greater restrictions that have been put in place as well to protect that. One thing to mention, though, is that it's easy to misunderstand the water and sewer plan. So don't misunderstand that. The water and sewer plan is not in any way a tool by which to extend growth out into the rural district. The water and sewer master plan is to retrofit what currently exists and to salvage the water and sewer systems and properties in Wycomico County. It will not and cannot be used as a tool to increase growth.
Thank you. All right. So that brings us to our third question. The majority of Wycomico County residents get their drinking water from wells, and these wells are rarely, if ever, tested for nitrates, common pesticides, or the rare but occasionally present industrial chemicals. What would you be willing to commit to doing on the county council or as county executive to address this gap? We're going to start with Mr. Gillis, 1 minute.
Clean drink water is a nonpartisan issue, right? It goes hand in hand with extending sewer and also potentially other infrastructure. We also mentioned broadband running through the infrastructure as well. Quite honestly, it's a very tough one. I couldn't tell you where all the failing wells are right now. I also couldn't tell you who specifically has an issue with a well. But I can tell you that it's an issue that we would look forward to looking into. I'm going to fall on my sword and tell you, I don't really know.
Thank you. Mr. Hastings, 1 minute.
Yeah, so of course, I think most folks may remember, I think it was about 8-10 years ago, we had the issues with trichlorocycline, I can never pronounce it right, that was found in the, it was found in the District 3 area, which just outside the city. This was probably done from an industrial solvent many years ago. That pollution basically forced those residents who were taking it in. That chemical immediately causes cancers. It became a cancer cluster area. I don't doubt there's more areas like that in the county and across the shore. My niece found out she's 6 years old, got diagnosed with cancer. I'm still trying to find out from her area if something like that were the case. We really need to make sure that we take our drinking water seriously from both the well water as well as what you would get from a municipal service. Recently, the city of Salisbury found PFAS, polyfluora, I'm not going to be able to say that word either. But long story short, they cause cancer, tear up a lot of parts of your body. So it's not really a positive thing. We really need to address it. That's going to take a large effort to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, before you begin, just quick reminder to the audience, if you have a question you want us to ask the candidates up here on the stage, we're going to be moving into that portion pretty soon, so make sure you get your questions to the right people. All right, Mr. Boda, 1 minute.
Yeah, clean drinking water is life. Water is life, and that's what sets aside a country such as ours and other areas around the world where they are still struggling to get clean drinking water. Josh mentioned a couple chemicals in our water. One of them specifically we know is here, I'm walking a fine line on what I can say and what I can't say because there's some things going on. But we need to test wells, every well that's anybody that lives within the metro core of Salisbury with our wonderful city boundaries. And the Fruitland area and some other areas, this chemical pretty much came from fire foam that they were using on a lot of the fires, such as the Civic Center fire, Crown Cork and Seal, the T-shirt factory, and I think there was the Cary distributor fire. So this chemical is here, and we have to be prepared for that because it is in the wells.
Thank you. Ms. Watson, 1 minute.
Yes. There have been a number of incidents and cases across the country where there have been chemical fallout that has affected soil and water. And we've seen recent cases where infrastructure has affected the water, leading to illness and even death. One of the greatest concerns that I have from living here on the shore and just realizing how fortunate we really have been, very, very fortunate, that we have not had any major catastrophes that we know of. Things sometimes have a way of coming to light. But what I think of more than anything is what Mr. Boda said, and how that we have to be more diligent when it comes to testing the infrastructure that is already in place. And then we have to take the necessary steps to replace that infrastructure. So I would like for us to have a plan and not be caught off guard.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, 1 minute.
One of the misconceptions that is out there is you read the Wycomico County Health Department. They're not owned or ran by the county. They're all state employees. And one of the problems we have right now is there's a shortage of employees at the health department. So yes, we do need to test wells, and of course with the permits that we're trying to get for these wells and their septic system, there's a problem because of the shortage that they have over there as far as staffing. So hopefully when the new administration come in, beginning of the year, that they can help us and get some people there so we can do those water testing and to get the permits for the wells and septics.
Thank you. Ms. Outen, 1 minute.
So it's interesting that Josh actually mentioned the contamination issue we had back in 2011 in District 3, because I'm actually one of the 300 residents that was impacted by that contamination. My family had lived in that community for about 15 years at that point. We still do not know the full impacts of what this is going to do to our family health. We were very lucky that the county at the time took very swift action in making sure that the residents in that community were taken care of. We were put on a very strict no water plan for quite a bit of time, a lot of water bottles, a lot of going to neighbors' houses to shower. I'm absolutely pro testing our waters, being proactive. Again, Ms. Talana keeps hitting the nail on the head. Being proactive with our planning, being proactive with our testing, and making sure that these issues do not happen, because as Mira mentioned, as Mr. Boda mentioned, we do know that these contaminants exist, so why aren't we testing for them already?
Thank you. Mr. Cole, 1 minute.
So I think we're all in agreement that we definitely need to test our wells, whether that's yearly, quarterly, or whatever it is. I live on town water and sewer right now. Town of Hebron tests weekly. We need to make sure that our municipalities are actually keeping up to date on their testing, making sure they're providing safe water to the residents and actually reporting it to them. As far as the wells, we can work on getting a water sewer system countywide, but for now what we need to do is start thinking of the future, start planning for testing dates for everybody to be able to actually test their wells and make sure that they're actually drinking water that's clean. All new properties, we need to not just test to see if it perks, we need to also test that water to make sure that it is clean. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Giordano, 1 minute.
Not to repeat what everybody has said here, but actually you can visit delmarvawatersolutions.com and get a free water analysis right now. And so if you are concerned, I know where I live in Hebron, iron is a big deal, and so we made sure to have our water tested. Also, I plan as an executive to work with MDE to see if there is funding for these tests, throughout the county.
Thank you. Mr. Nguyen, 1 minute.
Here I am, I'm last, and I couldn't agree with anybody else anymore. I'm with Julie. I mean, there's tests we can get. I mean, you can get a test. You can take it to the lab. If you are concerned with your water, test your water. Don't wait. I remember when that happened in Fruitland. That was a catastrophe. Apparently, they were fertilizing a field with materials that they shouldn't have been fertilizing with, and it got down into the water, and boom, we had to get a water tower put up. So yeah, we need to test our water, and you know, if we've got contaminated areas, we need to help them out, put a water tower up or something. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not going to prolong this. I think we do know we need to test our water. I think that years ago we used to swim in Johnson's Lake, Shoemaker Pond. Many of the lakes we cannot do it. I think not only do we need to test our drinking water, we need to test the waters that we used to be able to swim in to see what is going down into our wells. I personally do not drink well water, but I read an article that what is the best bottled water? I'm a bottled water person. I even drank bottled water in the city of Salisbury. It was easier. I never drank tap water. But my well water does taste good. I have to say that. I drank some the other day. But we need to test, and I think that's basically what we all are here saying, that we need to find a test. And if there are kits that people can get, we need to make sure they know where to get them.
Thank you. Mr. Holloway?
Well, the testing of wells, especially in the rural areas, is a personal responsibility. Folks can get their wells tested, like Julie mentioned, and contact the health department to find out who can do it. Interestingly enough, we owned a farm that the well was 33 foot deep. It had no iron, no nitrates, nothing, and there had been chickens grown on that farm for a number of years. The other farm, the well was 112 foot deep, and we had to run the well for like 2 weeks before we got through the nitrates. So it doesn't make sense. That can show up anywhere. So, you know, if somebody has a concern, I urge them to get their wells tested. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cannon, 1 minute.
Yes, we have a lot of efforts in place, as we've talked about tonight. There are the total maximum daily loads that the Maryland Department of the Environment tries to limit so that we don't have too many nitrates or phosphates going into our soils. It protects Chesapeake Bay, but also protects our water. We're very lucky because we have the Paleo Channel underneath Wycomico County. I don't think we realize just how lucky we really are. So we have to be vigilant in making sure that we do protect that. You know, when we do, planning and zoning and ordinances, you also have to make sure that if you're going to build in Wycomico County, you want to protect the Paleo Channel and not necessarily build over the Paleo Channel. We had a huge issue with DAF recently, 2 issues: ban it, or else, from my perspective, put it in the ag district, but in areas where it was not going to impact housing developments, or it wasn't going to affect the neighbors, and it also was going to protect the Paleo Channel. So we need to be vigilant in that. At the same time, I think we need to make sure that Maryland Department of the Environment, our Eastern Shore delegation, addresses those issues as well. When I get notifications from Maryland Department of the Environment saying that this business wants to use, 100,000 gallons a day in water, I'm thinking, God, I hope somebody's looking out for this. I really hope they are. So we need to make sure that we're vigilant with the state of Maryland as well. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Merritt.
No, I'm last. Okay, yeah. I can pull a Mr. Holloway. How do you make ditto last 60 seconds? Well, I think it's clear we need to get our water tested. We have the ability to do that. We also need people to get a solution to this problem. Like Mr. Davis said, we need to hire smart people in this field and let them do their job. My father told me years ago, surround yourself with smart people, close your mouth, and open your ears, and listen and learn. And that's what I would do. I'd look forward to learning and working with the agencies that would come up with a solution to this problem.
Thank you. All right. So we're moving into audience questions now. So first one we will start with, since we talked a little bit about waste management earlier on. So the Wycomico County landfill on Brick Kiln and Owens Branch roads is over capacity, as this audience member writes. Discussions in 2018 to expand that landfill failed because of local community opposition. So with that being said, what options do you feel the county has to address this looming problem? And we will start with Mr. Hastings. 1 minute.
I'll say we are very quickly going to run out of our capacity with our landfill. And with our population growth and with the decisions that were made not in our county or in our country, but anybody have a plastic water bottle here? That is trash. It's really not recyclable. Most any plastic is trash. China stopped accepting our trash, our plastic, and now it is piling up very quickly in our landfills and across the country. So we need to do waste diversion. About 40% of what goes into a landfill is biodegradable. We need to use technology like we've had in council. We've had a lot of talk lately about biodigesters, anaerobic digestion. That's really where we need to be moving as much food waste or other kind of things so that we can divert and extend the length of our landfill as long as possible. Because you think it's expensive now, wait till we no longer have a single space in the county where we can put our trash. And let me just say, it's a very antiquated system of just digging a hole and sticking pretending it's not there anymore. So we need to fix the system.
Thank you. Mr. Boda, 1 minute.
Yep, I agree with Josh. I mean, we have to look at ways to reuse and find other options for our waste. But we are, as a country, a very wasteful people. I mean, I sometimes watch all the people that shop at Walmart and you wonder, where is 80% of this going? It's going to our landfill. So I think that's some things that this isn't just a Wycomico County problem. This is a national problem, and in a lot of cases, there's no place to send your trash to. I mean, we remember, what was it, New Jersey, that had stuff on a barge for months. So that's some of the things we've got to look at new solutions for this issue.
Thank you. Ms. Watson, 1 minute.
I was one of those voices in 2018 that didn't want the expansion of the landfill near the district where our business is and in the district where I live. I remember a few years back in Vacation Bible School, many of us know what that is, there was a lesson that involved the responsibility of citizens when it comes to preserving our resources. And it impressed me so much, I first looked into Wycomico County to see if there were any recycle programs. There were not. So I noticed a bin on 349, so I decided I was gonna be responsible. And I was gonna have a bin for plastic, one for glass, one for aluminum. So ever since that time, I make it my business to fill my little bins and take them to recycle. I hope they go somewhere good. But I think as a county, we need to be more responsible and take it more seriously when it comes to preserving our resources.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, 1 minute.
As you all know, that trash mountain is at its peak right now. And if you also notice out there, they're opening up the last 2 cells that could be opened up on that side of the roadway. And there is another space across Brick Hill that, as a county, we purchased for that purpose if we do run out. But as Josh spoke, we do need to look at other alternatives of getting rid of our waste. We got the lowest tipping fee, so we got a lot of waste that comes out of other counties, other states that are dumping into our landfill. That's why our landfill is filling up so fast. You go into Worcester County, their fees are so high, so they're coming over here. We had, if you look at the waste trucks, they're coming here instead of going there because it's cheaper to come to Wycomico. We tried to raise the fee, but we were defeated. Joe, I'm going to say it, Joe was a firm believer of that, and that was causing a lot of trash that is coming our way.
Thank you. Ms. Outen, 1 minute.
So I had very fortunate enough to sit down with some workers from our waste management facilities just to kind of get a better concept. I live out in, previously District 2, now District 4, so I unfortunately have not really experienced any of the effects of our landfill like Ms. Watson has. I want to emphasize again the focus on preservation and being very mindful of how we use our resources. So the workers at our waste management facility have, and as Josh and many of us up here have emphasized, we are at our max capacity. We only have so much time before we are out of space for where our trash is to go. So to not repeat some of the things that have been said up here, I would like to pivot maybe more on education at the county level. Wow, 10 seconds. Education at the county level. So I am part of the Salisbury Sustainability Committee, and a big initiative that we do at the city is education on recyclables and making sure that people are aware of just what they can actually recycle, not plastics, glass, and aluminum, and I would love to bring that to the county.
Thank you. Mr. Cole, 1 minute.
Of course, I'm only 31, but I remember the mountain out there at Brick Hill not being as tall when I was a kid, going there with my grandfather. We definitely do have a problem with people not recycling in this county. We have a problem with extra waste just being dumped out. We need to get a countywide system of either recycling or be pushing more for reusable bags, reusable cups. Do something more instead of dumping all this waste into our landfill. Like right now, all these bottles, unless we hit the recycling bin out here in the hallway, they'll probably just go right in the trash can outside. But we definitely do need to get some type of countywide recycling system and try to cut down that mountain, as everybody calls it.
Thank you. Ms. Giordano, 1 minute.
So as Councilman Davis said, we have purchased the land across the way, but purchasing more land isn't going to help necessarily with this. So we do need to move closer to zero waste. With this, I've actually talked to my students about that. And I brought a list of things that they came up with, of things that we can do here in Salisbury. And I didn't want to miss any, so I do have it here. So they talked about eliminating single-use items, things that we just only use one time and then throw away. We can repurpose household items. We could visit a thrift shop, do composting, buy fresh foods, or use rechargeable batteries. And these kids are 17, and I think that they do a better job than some adults. So hopefully maybe we should listen to them, and we'd be a little better off.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Nguyen, 1 minute.
Mount Trashmore is what I think of. That is a giant mountain. Like Kyle, I grew up going on the hill dumping trash from a job, a tear-out job, and it's just a lot of trash. And we need to find another solution on getting rid of it, because where's it going to go? It's just going to keep going up and up and up, and then we move to the next lot, and we just pile it on there until we can't pile anymore. And that's a short-term solution. We should really think 30 years out in advance. What are these big cities doing? Not the ones that are shipping it somewhere else, but how are they getting rid of their trash? Is it like Josh Hastings says, using enzymes or an incinerator or other ways? I don't know, but this is something we should really consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shields, 1 minute.
I think that we talk about recycling. That's an educational piece for people. We can't make people recycle. We talked about mandatory recycling in the city of Salisbury. I don't think they have done that. Even talked about the apartment complexes recycling. It's an issue that people have to be educated on the importance of that. The average citizen's not caring about recycling. Right now they're caring about paying their bills, feeding their families, medical bills, and all this sounds good, but no landfills come to First District. I'm going to tell you that right now, because the people's going to raise Cain. I'll be one of them. Just like the storage tank should never came, but it was legal to do so, I would have raised Cain if I lived there, and that's your right to do that. But we got to educate people on recycling. Paper bags, I know Delmar, when you go to Food Line, they give you paper bags. We need to do the same thing here in the state. Go to paper bags, get rid of plastic bottles, because some of the stuff I read lately, plastic bottles are not even being recycled anymore. So we may need to turn back to something else. But educating people the importance of recycling.
Thank you. Mr. Holloway, 1 minute.
When you raise tipping fees, you end up with the problem Mr. Cole was talking about. You end up with trash along the roads. We've experienced that. Okay. Recycling is the answer. It's very simple. My wife went to the refrigerator a week or so ago and grabbed a green bottle of Sprite, cranked it open, and took a drink, and discovered I'd filled it up with water. Something I do occasionally. She doesn't drink many sodas, so she was a little disappointed. But Ocean City few years ago raised their tipping fees. They were paying their way at their landfill. They were paying their way. They raised their tipping fees. Not Ocean City, excuse me, Worcester County raised their tipping fees. Ocean City left them, okay, started shipping their trash to the city. So the revenues in their landfill went down. So we have to have a balance. We have to have a landfill, okay, and we have to make it work. Recycling's the answer. Getting people to do it is a question of how you get everybody to do it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cannon, 1 minute.
Thank you. Yes, worrying about trash is never going to be the solution. Yes, we are at a maximum capacity at the landfill, and we have other cells where we can put it, but that's not really going to solve the problem. It wasn't that long ago where recycling was even profitable. It's profitable for everybody. And then China shut off the spigot. China got really, well, they didn't get smart. They had to do it because they found out that all the pollution that was being created by all the recyclables that were coming to China was starting to burden their economy and ruin their economy. So they shut the spigot off. So not only that, it was no longer profitable. We didn't have anywhere to send it. So that was a real problem. You only have two issues that are going to develop here. You're either going to recycle something or it's going to be trash. So recycling is somewhat, recycling and if it's biodegradable. So it's not the issue of how to get rid of it. It's going to have to be the issue of how we're going to stop producing it. And we have great minds in the United States, great minds here. And I think we have to work together to try to see if we can't come up with the biodegradable products everywhere so that we don't have to worry about where we're going to put the next landfill. Everything can be recycled where it will be biodegradable.
Thank you. Mr. Merritt, 1 minute.
Thank you. So I think the point's clear. The landfill is getting filled up. We need to do something about it. I'll go back to the smart growth thing from a while ago. If we go putting another 1,000, 2,000 homes in the county, how fast do you think the landfill is going to fill up then? We need to have a plan, and the plan needs to start fairly quickly if we expect to grow the county. I would be definitely in support of a recycling program along with a very aggressive public education process to let people know that it's very important to recycle as much as possible. But we have to have a plan to move forward with the landfill and not wait 5 years to figure out what we're going to do.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Gillis, 1 minute.
Lead by example. So right now we have a great opportunity. We have so many job openings in Wycomico County in the government. We can create a culture, a green culture in Wycomico County, and lead by example. There's a lot of opportunities, whether it's landfill, whether it is green technology. There's also thought out there. We currently have an analog we have an analog landfill. We need to go digital with our landfill. And again, that's another great opportunity that we have to create a green culture within Wycomico County. And as a person who does recycle, I do throw away my plastic because I do know that it is wish cycling, but I at least recycle the cardboard. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Our next question has to do with planning and zoning, still has to do with the environment. So we know that agricultural zoning comprises over 80% of Wycomico County, yet there's a huge difference between living on Colburn Mill Road, 1 mile from Salisbury, versus 15 miles down Nanticoke Road near Tyaskin. So with that being said, both do have the same zoning classification. So our audience member wants to know, in your opinion, should we have more levels of agricultural zoning in Wycomico County? Just for some context, right now there's A1 and A2. So we will start with Mr. Boda. You have 1 minute.
I think, there are a lot of things that are not just in zoning, but there's a lot of things as a county we need to take a look at on a deeper level. A lot of our stuff was developed back in the 50s, 60s, whether it's our code, whether it's our zoning laws. I think there needs to be a comprehensive review of all zoning from top to bottom. And I think, this is another area where you bring in a group of people who, like Jeff says, smarter than us, experts in that field to help us look at the future. And again, like a wise man once told me, 30,000 feet in the air, 30 years down the road, what do we want our county to look like? And let's create that plan now. And that wise man was Palmer Gillis, Brad's dad. So whenever I say that, that's where I got that. But I think that's, as a community, that's how we need to approach that.
Thank you. Ms. Watson, you have 1 minute.
I'm in agreement with Mr. Boda, and further stating that we really need to look at the data that has already been produced. We need to analyze that, get a thorough understanding, and look historically to see why our county mixed certain land uses as they did. Because more than likely things have changed, the perspectives have changed since it was originally done. So we need to re-look at why we're doing what we're doing. When we mix in things like technology and those kinds of changes, things have changed for us. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, because I'm guilty myself, sometimes we get set and we get locked into certain patterns. But we really have to look at the data and see what's there.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, 1 minute.
I think Mr. Boda hit it right on the head. Joe, I don't know why you keep cutting this thing.
It should be on.
Trying to save you.
Yeah. That plan, A1, A2, I1, it's been in effect for over 50 years. And that's something that does have to be revisited. And like Mr. Boda said, looked at people that are trained and know what they're looking at. That was one of the reasons why we had such a hard time trying to decide about that DAF tank, because of the A1, A2, and industrial zone. And if we revisited and identified a problem within that plan, I think we would come out a lot better.
Thank you. Ms. Outen, 1 minute.
So during my time in renewable energy, I sat quite often up in Annapolis listening to a lot of the environmental policy that came forward, and the importance of wording really resonated with me during my time there. I would love to see at the county level us have a curated, a conscious and updated code in our languaging when it comes to our environmental planning. Because the more up-to-date and conscious we are with that wording and how we zone things, we can really curate a Wycomico that is both a thriving municipality, a thriving metropolitan region, while also still preserving the rural heritage that we have here in Wycomico.
Thank you. Mr. Cole, 1 minute.
So I'm going to agree with Mr. Boda and Councilman Davis. We definitely need to revisit the zoning. As Mr. Davis said, it's over 50 years old. That's longer than I've been alive. But no farm is alike. No property is alike. You can go down Nanticoke Road, Tyaskin, it's going to be different than going over to Willards. But first thing what we need to do is take care of our staffing shortage out at planning and zoning. We need to make sure we get qualified people in there that will know how to correctly identify each property and be able to zone it properly.
Thank you. Ms. Giordano, 1 minute.
Wow, this might be the first time that all of us agree, right? So I do agree with Councilman Davis and Councilman Boda. Yeah, I mean, we definitely need to look at it. I think that the county needs to kind of look at a lot of different things, things that haven't been touched or looked at since the 50s or 60s. I think we really saw the issues, with the DAF tank situation. And I think that it's a very valid question. And I think, I guess if there is a silver lining, it kind of brought that to light. So hopefully that is something that we can look at.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Nguyen, 1 minute.
Yeah, I mean, ditto again, right? So there's a lot of agreements here. We all agree that if it was done in the 50s, yeah, we should probably look at what we can do now to see what's different. I mean, things change. Everything gets updated. Farmland probably doesn't get updated too often because it does stay the same, but we do need to look at it. But yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Shields, 1 minute.
I think that we already have qualified people in the planning and zoning office. I know Jack Lennox, when I was on the city council, he was very qualified. I think Frank now, he's on the in planning and zoning, he's qualified. What hasn't been done is a review that should have been instructed by the county council to review the zoning laws. And we had a charter review committee, we have all these committees, and with attorneys, part of the committee, we need to get a committee of people, stakeholders, the planning and zoning, and go over line by line the zoning rules all over the county. And I think that is what we need to do. We don't need to hire more people and pay more money if you already have the people there. So I think that we as a whole council, we need to instruct the planning and zoning to review all the laws and bring them back to the council.
Thank you. Mr. Holloway, 1 minute.
Somebody said we all agree up here. I'm not going to agree with it. I'll tell you what, people move to the country because they want the country style of life. So they get there, then they don't like the farming that's going on there. So then they want their zoning changed so people can't farm. Okay? Why? You know, you move there, you want that kind of lifestyle, but now the combine's going too slow down the road, or some guys built a chicken house across the street, and you're not happy about that. So remember where you get your food from, folks. Yeah. It don't all come from China. It may do someday, but remember where you get your food from, or you'll be eating chicken wings from China. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Cannon,
Thank
1
you.
minute.
Where's Bill McCain? Is he still here? I think this was Bill McCain's question. Bill has been talking about multiple districts in the ag district for quite some time. He and I have not always seen eye to eye on that, though I'm always willing to listen and try to see what we can do. In theory, it sounds absolutely great, but we've had enough trouble as it is. I mean, you know, we have an A1 and an A2, but we haven't really isolated or defined clearly enough even our tier maps right now. There are 3 tier maps we're supposed to be established in Wycomico County, which creates a similar type of process of what you can do in each zone, right? Here's your situation. It's going to take major input from every single community. Because if you go down to Bivalve and say, okay, here's Smith Street in Bivalve. The people living on that side of Smith Street, you only have these particular property rights, and you won't be able to put a store there, or you can only maybe sell your property for a developer that wants to build 2 houses. And yet across the street from Smith Street, that's where your zone's going to be. And that zone's going to say that you can do whatever you want there, that you can have 16 stores. That's the small nuances that you get into trouble with when you try to overzone the ag district. You're going to really have to be very careful with every single person's concerns in every part of the county. It's going to take a lot of review and a lot of community input.
Thank you. Mr. Merritt, 1 minute.
So, being involved in the business community, one of the things I learned is that we've always done it that way. Thought process doesn't work very well. I think the last 2 years should have taught us all that. We need to be flexible. I don't necessarily think we need to overhaul the zoning laws, but I think they need to be reviewed to see if they're still best serving the people of this county.
Thank you. Mr. Gillis, 1 minute.
The last time we overhauled our comprehensive plan was in 2017. We're required to, by state law, to look at our comprehensive plan. I believe it's every 6 to 10 years. So that time is now. So during our hopeful legislative tender, we will be able to look at our comprehensive plan and also overlay correctly the priority funding areas and decide what we want to be as a county. So having the comprehensive plan is a wonderful opportunity to have that community dialogue, and look forward to doing it. And with my 30 seconds, if anyone wants to stand up and do a 7th inning stretch, you can do it now. Okay.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hastings, 1 minute.
Yeah, I'll say I've worked on comprehensive plans up and down the Eastern Shore. No county has a rezoning, or their zoning is our zoning is the worst. I'll just say it. It's bad. We should be more like Talbot County, where you have multiple ag districts and then you have rural villages. The establishment of things like a rural village, a place like Oxford or others, that designation has allowed money to be put in from state level money. So for failing septic systems, they could then use those funds to hook it up or to help fix the septic systems that are there. I'll also say, most of the growth issues that we have are hopefully going to be hopefully will be addressed through the Stainable Ag Preservation Act of 2012. Not that I expect any policy nerds in the audience to be like, oh yeah, it's my favorite bill. Yeah, but like, that was actually the most impactful piece of legislation that came through. What that does, of course, was it basically limited the housing to between 5 to 7 homes on any particular parcel. So most of that growth is going to be limited. It's going to stick within the priority funding area. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have time for one more audience question. This one has to do with the topic of environmental justice. So before I get into the question, I know from having reported on this, we know that Black and brown communities, other communities of color are disproportionately impacted by things like pollution, bad air quality, and that can have negative health incomes and negative incomes in all areas of their life. So with that being said, this audience member wants to know, what will you do to see that environmental issues do not have a predominant effect on communities that are predominantly of color? So we'll start with Ms. Watson. You have 1 minute. Do you have a microphone? Okay.
I do.
Great.
I think it's been said before on tonight. If you're listening, you can see that we're beginning to repeat ourselves in some aspects. But when I think about it, I think it has a lot to do with the education. It has a lot to do with the information being shared so that people are aware of what they're looking for or what to expect.
I'm pausing your time so you can switch the microphone.
Thank you.
Okay, you have 30 seconds remaining.
Okay. It has a lot to do with education. I think sometimes those of us who are engaged, we take for granted that everybody knows what we do at the same level. But that is not true. We have to really make a concerted effort to, when it comes to, because it is economic. Usually when the reference is to people of color, the information, the education, it has to do with economics, it seems to. And that not necessarily that it's not afforded to them, but that they may not become aware or have access to the information. So we have to be more diligent in making sure that information is shared at places they have access to.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, you have 1 minute.
I think the question was how the impact on minority districts.
So the question was, this mic stand is bothering me, I'm sorry. Okay, the question was, what will you do if elected as county executive in your case to ensure that environmental issues are not predominantly impacting communities of color?
Well, I can tell you what I did when I was on council. For one, they want to put 13 CAFOs in District 1, and we fought to stop the CAFO from being put, not only because it was in our district, but it was also being built on what John said, it was being built on Paleo Channel. So that was one of the reasons. Not saying that the chicken houses were going to leak, but just the thought of them being on there. And then on the impact of the, as we call it, the trash mountain. There was the landfill wanted to bring that mountain right to Route 50. So when you came into Salisbury, the first thing you were going to see was that mountain sitting right on the highway. So we fought against that being brought that way. Hopefully it'll go back the other way, but hopefully we can get these digesters that can accumulate and get rid of all of the mountains so we won't have to look at it at all.
Thank you. Ms. Outen, 1 minute.
So I guess the bottom line is just engagement with the community. So for those who haven't been following my campaign, at the forefront of my campaign is community and opportunity, and I'll emphasize the community right now, which is getting the community involved again at the county level, letting them know what we're doing at the county council level, what projects are coming up, and getting that stakeholder feedback. As a candidate, I've made it my effort to be in every single district, talking to, advocating for the constituents of that district. And at the county council level, we need more leadership, and even at the county executive level, that will have those conversations with the residents to make sure that their voices are heard and they are not going to be severely impacted in any way by these projects.
Thank you. Mr. Cole, 1 minute.
So, of course, District 1 is considered the majority minority district as it is. Two big things that we have there We have Eagle Recycling, which is right there down off of Isabella. And we also have the landfill, which they're trying to grow outwards. And if I believe correctly, somebody wanted to put a DAF tank also in District 1 at one point. I will always fight against that being close to residents. One thing, last week, I sat down with Ms. Alton, had lunch. We actually talked about the pollution and the trash around the districts. One thing we talked about is implementing a countywide district cleanup days. Push for recycling, push for cleaning up the environment, try to make our county beautiful again, and keep trash off our streets.
Thank you. Ms. Giordano, 1 minute.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of different things up here. First off, education definitely is key, but as county executive, I would try to come up with a comprehensive plan that is good for everyone in the county. You know, from Sharptown to Willards to Del Mar to Fruitland, to work together because all of Wicomico County citizens matter.
Thank you. Mr. Nguyen, 1 minute.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. So it has to do with environmental justice. The question is, you know, we know that communities of color oftentimes are very much disproportionately impacted by environmental issues, which can lead to negative health outcomes, negative economic outcomes, the list goes on. So the question to you is, you know, if elected to county council, what will you do with your position of leadership to prevent environmental issues from disproportionately impacting majority communities of color here in Wycomico County?
Okay, so you're referring to like the cities and buildings being built in these communities and like the chicken plants, or nothing wrong with chicken plants, but I'm just saying like the highways running through them, and is that what you're saying?
The card just says environmental issues, so I can't speak for the audience members, so
Okay.
I'll leave it vague.
Well, I mean, one thing we can work on, I guess, is smart growth. I mean, we need to educate. We need to educate them, and we need to, you know, work on smart growth. Put things together the right way the first time instead of backtracking, like it seems like we have to do now because we have this question. Sorry.
Thank you.
I think what they're trying to say, I'm going to give you a little black history here. I experienced some of this. I moved out on Jersey Road when I was 6 years old because they put a highway through. Because the businesses wanted to get the Ocean City traffic. Unfortunately, they bypassed the downtown and went straight to Ocean City. So what it did, it destroyed a neighborhood which was called Georgetown. Relocated people, tore their homes down. Some of them needed to be tore down, but some were homeowners. They were told they couldn't redo their home. Then next was the bypass, where people had to be relocated for infrastructure. That was in the black community, Cook Drive. Principal Charles Gausley had to move. So that's an example. Then you have the flooding issue on Germania Circle, which I lived through. But that's not going to be solved right now. It's better, I get to say it's better, but it's still in a minority neighborhood. I think that is what is called environmental justice, and we don't know what the dampness has caused. We don't know what the health issues would be. We don't know what the mental health issue has done to people, but we got to make sure that we don't do it again for progress.
Thank you. Mr. Holloway, 1 minute.
As I said in my opening remarks, I've been on the council since 2006. John joined me then. He took a little break for 4 years, but we've worked really hard to prevent that from happening. Ernie's there, Cherie Sample Hughes was there before. I think we do it all on a case-by-case basis. There's always going to be people unhappy about something that happens in their neighborhood. It's, I just read that bottle, didn't I? Yeah. Anyway, but I think we've been very fair in working with the minority community, I believe. But there's chicken houses, there's 13 chicken houses. We didn't stop them. The guy just found out that he wasn't wanted and disappeared. So anyway, we kind of made it clear that it wasn't going to be a welcome thing. But anyway, I think we've been very fair with working with the minority communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cannon, 1 minute.
Thank you. Joe is right. We've always been very considerate of any community to make sure that we're doing the right thing as the Wycomico County Council. Megan, you said engage with the community? Yeah, that's it. You're hitting the nail on the head right there. Engaging with the community. Do you know what organization in Wycomico County has the most, in my opinion, has had the most influence on the Wycomico County Council? This is a nonprofit organization. That outside of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, by the way, and WET. It's been the NAACP. The influence they have, and that's because of President Mary Ashani. She's no longer president. Unbelievable. She engaged, and she really did so much on behalf of that organization and that community. Heck, we had to have a vote or a bill that the Wycomico County had to send forward to the state of Maryland in order for it to be approved, right? So I'm talking to a senator, and what does this senator say? Have you talked to Mary Ashani? So that's where the key is. You have to engage with the community, and you have to respect that engagement. And as Joe said as well, engage and do everything you can to make sure you're fair with everyone across the board.
Thank you. Mr. Merritt, 1 minute.
So I agree with the public engagement, public education thing that's been repeated up here. Mrs. Watson brought up a very good point that a lot of people don't know the things that are available to them, and that's kind of our fault. We need to do a better job with advertising the resources and ways of doing things that are available to everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Gillis, 1 minute.
On the landfill question, we talked about creating a culture, a green culture. I think this is also a great opportunity for us to look at diversity in hiring our county government employees. Those are the folks that are going to be engaging in our community along with us as legislators. So I think also diversity of hires is going to be a great resource for us to engage in those communities.
Thank you. Mr. Hastings, 1 minute.
Yeah, I'll just say, of course, no one should be impacted by the poor decisions of industry or the poor decisions of government planning. You know, historically that has happened a lot. Ms. Shields mentioned, you know, the Georgetown community. Many folks may not know that was a historic black community. Folks did not want to see it, so what did? They literally knocked it down and put a highway through it. Those kind of things happened and continue to happen. We've seen that in recent issues in Baltimore City. You name it, with the Cove Point issues, with the incinerators that are put in. You know, a lot of these things tend to happen in spaces where those who are the least likely to speak up will be impacted. So we need to make sure that we continue to, of course, as Mr. Cannon was saying, build a good relationship, make sure that all folks can speak up. But above all else, we've got to stop harming the people. We've got to start harming people in general. But planning, which all of us will be a part of, you know, that has a big impact on the future of different folks. So,
thank you. Mr. Boda, 1 minute.
Testing. All right, it works. So one of the things, two things that as county executive I would do, first I would bring back the public information officer position, because that was a critical position that gets the information out specifically to community stakeholders, and it's one person that they can connect to for all the information that the county disseminates. The other piece is when we are looking at the water sewer plan and coming up, when you're looking at these areas that are immediately outside of like the city of Salisbury, you know, and some of these there's some minority communities like that, is negotiating with the city on the annexation deal so that it's not negatively financially impactful on those individuals, but ensuring that they get those services and that the agreement is fair to them and fair to the rest of the citizens of the city.
Thank you. All right, so that concludes the questions that we had for all of you candidates tonight. Thank you again for coming and participating. I know I definitely wouldn't be able to answer questions like that in 1 minute, so I commend you guys. So to close things out, we're going to end with Madeline Adams from the Wycomico Environmental Trust.
Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming and giving so much of your time and telling us what you think and starting a dialogue. We really appreciate it. Thank you to Hannah Cicchini and Channel 47 ABC. Thank you to the Chesapeake Bay Foundation and Salisbury University's Institute for Public Affairs and Civic Engagement. And thank you to the volunteers and staff of the Wycomico Environmental Trust who worked on this event. Please remember to vote. If you need to register, you have a week to do it. The deadline is Tuesday, October 18th to do so. And on the way out, please stop by the information tables in the foyer. There is a variety of information on the organizations that have sponsored this event and related issues. Thank you so much for coming. We are delighted to have seen so many people here. Good night.